Dr. T, how are you?
I am doing well. I'm doing
Excellent.
well.
Excellent. It's good to have you back. Um, you started something last week, and there's no way that we could just leave it right there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this thing is giving me the wrong title. Right. There's no way we could leave it right there. Positive disciplining. And it goes so deep that we have to bring you back to continue where we left off. You did a parenting class on Monday.
Yes, I did.
How was that? I had missed out on that. How was it?
Yeah, it's actually I did two classes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I live in Europe, I did one in Europe, and I also did one for parents on the East Coast of the US,
Right.
and it was very interesting. A lot of parents, mostly mothers who loved in. They got a different perspective on how they can respond to their children as it relates to, for example, getting them to do certain tasks.
Right.
And quite a few of them responded that they are, I guess, frustrated or tired of trying to use punitive strategies because they're seeing that it's disrupting their relationship with their children
Right.
and they want to do something better. And so they basically are interested in positive discipline practices so that they can improve their relationships. So it's not just for them wanting to stop a particular behavior, but they're realizing that the strategies they're using to stop the behavior is actually damaging their relationship.
Mm.
So, yeah, it was a good thing for the parents who tuned in to see the alternative, and quite a few have expressed that they're definitely interested in the 7-week course that I have that will start in January, where
Hmm.
we can go deeper into the different parenting tools that you can use in different situations that can help you to discipline your child while still remaining calm and firm. So, a lot of them are saying, I want an alternative because I see that the punitive measures aren't really working. But then I want to make sure that I don't become permissive, allowing my child to get away with anything.
Right.
So it worked perfect that with positive discipline, you're right there in the middle where you're maintaining the boundaries and the firmness, but you're doing this in a way that is respectful to the child.
And
Uh,
when you talk about punitive punishment, you're referring to spankings
yes,
and
spankings, threats, withdrawal of privileges. Some people might find that like, what? Yeah. So threats, shouting, withdrawal of privileges, all those kind of things that are really form of punishment. So I'm going to take these things away from you, and or I'm going to do this particular strategy
mhm.
because you've been bad. So it's a way of, when you look at punishment, it's making the child feel bad because they've done something bad
But
instead of um, using that opportunity as a teachable moment, instead of insisting that, you've done this particular thing, so I'm going to punish you for it. And punishment, um, usually or most of the time, make a child feel bad. I don't know anybody who has received punishment who don't feel bad. But the thing that parents don't realize is that we think making a child feel bad will make them do better. And it might work temporarily, but most of the time it doesn't. A child will remember I spoke about the 3 R's. They will either become more rebellious,
Mm-hmm.
they may become revengeful, or they may retreat. And a lot of times when parents experience retreat, they're like, oh my God, my child is finally behaving. But the effects of retreat is that the child may just become sneaky. So they've just adopted more strategies to evade your rules, but they're still doing the same thing that you don't want them to do in the first place. Or they might stop that particular thing, but their self-esteem and self-worth has been damaged in the process. So I'm not a good child. I'm worthless. I can't meet my parents' expectations, and all that kind of thing will come from it. So, yeah.
Well, all right. Let's first look a little bit at withdrawal of privileges.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have a game console. I'm the child. I have a game console.
But tell me the situation first.
And
Why you would withdraw the privilege first? You have to set it up.
well, that's what I'm doing. I'm setting it up. I'm a child. I have a game console, and I have a time that I get to play on my game console.
Mm-hmm.
And you, as the parent, give me some instructions to do a particular task. I have not done that task, but I'm on my game console.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying that you would not take away my privilege to be on my game console?
Now, if you say you want them to do a particular task and they have not done it, when you take away the game console without any form of discussion previously with your child, it will come across as you being mean, you being unfair. Punishment is when you impose something on the child. And I know in our culture, a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, but that's what you're supposed to do. Now, if you're having a particular issue with your child, a lot of times, what do you do to your child? You tell your child, say, say you want them to wash the dishes. Go wash the dishes. That's what you normally do, right?
Right.
Normally. Now, if you, so I'm your mother, and I said to you, Kevin, go wash the dishes. You're in the middle of your game. What are you feeling in the moment? You're feeling it's kind of not the right time, inconvenient. You really don't want to do it, etc. Right? When I say, Kevin, go wash the dishes. Now, what if I said to you instead, Kevin, what was our agreement that you're to do at 4 p.m.? You say, our agreement is at 4 p.m. I do what?
I'm supposed to go wash the dishes.
What time is it now, Kevin?
4:20.
And our agreement was for you to do the dishes 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
What are you supposed to do now? Wash, and you say wash the dishes. Now, which one would make you more inclined? Me asking you in that particular way or telling you to go do the particular thing?
Okay.
Which one would you be more receptive to?
And also would definitely be more receptive to the me recognizing, being asked to recognize my part that I was supposed to play in the agreement that I have not.
And what is that teaching you in the process?
Well, one of the things is stick to your word. You made an agreement.
Accountability,
you want to stick to your word. Right.
Accountability.
And yes.
Right. So you're learning to be accountable. But if I just told you, go wash the dishes, and because you didn't wash the dishes, I'm going to take away your privileges, what have you learned in that process?
That I need to wash the dishes or else I'll lose my privileges.
Yeah, but what are you learning to be accountable? Are you learning to be more responsible? in a way that's motivating to you? Or is this going to frustrate you and make you angry? Or is this going to make you, yeah, I'm learning something positive right now when you take away the privileges?
Okay.
Again, every discipline opportunity should be a teachable moment that is long lasting in a positive way. So taking away the privileges, more than likely the child is going to become what? Angry, think you're mean and frustrated. Yes, they might go and wash the dishes, but are they learning anything? Remember the scenario that we just went through was accountability. They're not
Right.
going to necessarily learn accountability, but are they going to be focusing on their anger? You be mean. Also, a lot of times, children might feel like in that scenario that they were kind of like set up. So, when you're playing a game or you're really into a movie or something,
Right.
you don't even notice the time, do you?
No.
No, so as a
Time flies when you're
parent,
having fun.
yeah, so as a parent, you see that it's getting closer to 4 o'clock, 10 minutes to four. You pop in and you say, hey, Kevin, remember that you have about 10 minutes to do this particular thing, compared to waiting until 4:20 to say, hey, you didn't wash the dishes. But you
Hmm.
give your child a heads up because they're so engrossed in the game that they're not really focusing on the time or even remembering that they need to go and wash the dishes. So sometimes even as us as parents, it's saying to the child, hey, remember you have this thing in 10 minutes, or remember you have this thing in 5 minutes. And I don't want to do it in 5 minutes. I'm in the middle of this game. Then you say, remember our agreement. What is our agreement for you to do this thing at 4 o'clock? Normally when you set up agreements with children, you set up what are called logical consequences.
Hmm.
Logical consequences is where you brainstorm with your child, and I know this is going contrary to everything in our culture. But listen to me, parents. When children are part of the decision-making process, they're more willing to comply. When you impose a decision on them, they are more likely to resist. And it is not because they're bad, it is because it is a human nature. Every single human being is agentic. And what do I mean by that? There are three core elements of agency.
Mm-hmm.
Every single human being, we create meaning of our experiences with every single thing, or every person. This means that to me, okay? We are all very goal-oriented and strategic. And the issues that parents always confront is that we are all autonomous. Everybody has this drive. Even a baby, if the baby don't want to be held, what the baby does, wiggle its way out and
Right.
start to cry. Everybody has a drive to be autonomous. Now, when your autonomy is under threat, it is an innate response to try to protect that autonomy. And that is where the conflict in parent-child relationship comes.
Mm.
Now, so let's get back to the logical consequence. Now, imposing the rule is imposing on your child's autonomy, and the natural innate thing that is part of our evolution for thousands of years is that we want to protect our autonomy. With
Okay.
logical consequence, you're going to say, by the way, every family should have a family meeting. If you're so invested in the survival of a company, you have a weekly meeting, right?
Right.
Now, if you invest in the survival of your family and you want certain things to run smoothly, it is important that you have a family meeting. Now,
Makes
in the family
sense.
meeting, you're going to be talking about chores to be done in the home. Now, if you have multiple children, you talk about who's going to do what this week. And then you're going to sit with your children to say, if you do not uphold your end of the bargain, what is going to be the natural consequence for you for not following through? And this is very important. So, Kevin, if you know that you're
Mm.
supposed to be on the radio every Wednesday at 10 p.m., and you decide that you are not going to come, and you're going to show up whenever you want, what is going to happen? You're going to lose your 10 p.m. spot, right?
Right.
That's a consequence. In the same thing with children, you have this particular chore, which is to wash the dishes every evening at 4 p.m. You sit with your child and you say, what will be the logical consequence if you do not uphold your end of the bargain? So, when you're looking at logical consequence, you're going to look, is this consequence helpful for the child? Meaning, are they learning?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be respectful? Is it going to be relatable? And is it going to be reasonable for the child? So children would give you the answer, and I think so many times we underestimate our children. Children will say, well, I don't uphold my end of the bargain. I think it's reasonable that I lose access to my games all of the next day. They will tell you. And you said,
No.
okay, is that something you want? No, notice the difference.
Ah.
Notice the difference. Punishment is you imposing something on a child without any form of discussion, without any form of agreement. So what it comes across as unfair or mean. Think about it from even an adult's point of view. Your boss come and impose something on you and you're like, Virgin, we never agreed to this. You know? And it just comes across as unfair.
However,
No.
when it comes to a work situation, there's always that little clause that says any other duties assigned.
Okay. But in the child in the parent-child relationship situation,
It
again,
comes with a different clause. It comes with a clause that I am your parent. I provide everything that you currently have and will need for the next however long until you can take care of yourself. So,
but that doesn't mean that you don't respect the child's autonomy, though. I think the issue, and I know from our culture, the issue is if we think about it, and it might be triggering for some people. If we think about it, do we fully respect our children?
right.
Do we fully respect them? Because if you fully respect them, those three components of agency we would value or respect. That they create meaning from their experiences. So you might think something is reasonable when you look at it. When they interpret it, they're creating meaning that's something unfair. You have your goals for them. They also have their goals. And then the part that we often ignore is that we have a natural, innate urge to protect our autonomy, no matter how young or how old we are. And that is a part that I think a lot of parents fully do not respect. So
Right.
when you go through logical consequences with your children, you're saying, you and I are agreeing that this particular task needs to be done. And if you do not uphold your end of the bargain, we have agreed together that this is going to be your logical consequences. And I'm talking now, I am a parent of a 12-year-old son. I've never hit him because, as I told you, he's like, if you had hit me, I think I'll grow up to hate women. I don't have behavioral issues with him. And if you talk to anybody in our circle, the first thing parents always say, oh my God, he's so polite, he's so respectful. At the same time, I don't shout at him, I don't threaten him, I don't take away his privileges, and I don't hit him. But when in situations when we're doing agreeing what's supposed to be done in the house, he comes up with his own thing. So for example, he has a challenge keeping his room clean. And I think he's
Like
at the
most
age
boys.
yeah, and I think he's at the age now where it's not my responsibility to clean his room. But at the same time, the room needs to be clean. You can't have the entire house clean and then this one looks like, Gilbert rolled through it.
Okay, right?
Now, I could have the option of every time he doesn't clean his room, I take away his privileges. What is going to be? It's going to be frustration. It's going to be anger. It's going to be disruptive to our relationship. Now, we have weekly family meetings, which is on Thursdays. And I brought it up that a concern is keeping his room clean and something needs to be done about it. We agreed that he will do a mini cleaning on Wednesdays because, school he doesn't have a lot of time to do much. And then on Sundays, he's going to do a deep cleaning. And I asked him what he thinks the consequences of not doing his deep cleaning by 12 o'clock. We agreed by 12 o'clock on a Sunday. What would be it? And you know what he said to me? Well, if I don't clean my room by 12 o'clock, I think I shouldn't be able to go out to play football with my friends. So, he's in football club and all of that. But on Sundays, they meet up and play football for like 2-3 hours Sunday afternoon. And he's like, well, if I don't, and that's very valuable to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I don't clean my room by 12 o'clock, I think it's fair that I don't get to go play with my friends. And I was like, okay, we both agree, that's fine. Now, the first time we implemented it, obviously he forgot. So at 11:30, I had to remind him that, hey, maybe remember we have this agreement that you're supposed to do X, Y, and Z, so you can go do whatever. And he's like, oh, yeah. But now, every single Sunday by 11 a.m., I hear the vacuum cleaner going off. I hear him clean. Because he knows that he doesn't want to lose access to play football with his friends if his room is not clean by 12 o'clock. Now, what is he learning in that process by upholding his end of the bargain, or me going in there screaming and shouting at him, taking away his privileges because he hasn't cleaned his room?
Right. No.
So do you see where the benefits of respecting the autonomy and having agreed upon consequences has a more positive long-term impact than me going in there imposing my authority as the adult who has way more experience and way more power to get him to clean the room? Which one is going to motivate him to clean the room in the first place?
Right.
So which one is, again, when you're externally motivated, you're doing something because there's something outside of you. This is the external, the threat that mommy's going to shout at me, scream at me. So I'm going to do this thing. I really don't want to do it, but hey, I'm going to do it. Or you're internally motivated, I value my friendships and I value my time playing football, and that's important to me. And for me to experience that, I need to do certain things first. Let me go clean my room so I can go hang out with my friends. So it's the respectful part I think we struggle with. Like, I am the adult. I have had way more experience than you. I have way more power because I have more experience, more material, access to material wealth, because I'm the one with the money and all of that.
Right.
So I think it is my right to impose my punishment on you, not realizing that as human beings, we have the innate need to protect our autonomy. So we are going to immediately say, no, that's not fair. You're being mean.
I have gotten so many your means, boy.
Yeah, because you don't allow the child. Okay, the one that Jamaicans complain about all the time? Back talking, right?
You know what? Wait, don't say another word yet. I want to have... we need to take a quick little break. And I want us to address this back talking as adults, as parents. Okay. And I want to know what the positive discipline is dealing with that. Okay. I want to say greetings to those who just joined in the stew pot. Welcome. This is where we keep things bubbling. Do comment, don't be shy. 912 166 311. Welcome to the show. We're gonna take a quick little break. Call some friends on over. Let's get the pot bubbling. We're talking to Dr. Taniesha Burke, and we're learning a little bit of something when it comes to positive disciplining. I don't know how many out there listening actually employ this method. I can say that I have not. And you missed last week's show, so you have a few questions. Cool. Good. Which means you didn't go to the archives and catch what we talked about then. Or maybe you did. So you have more questions. Not a problem. She'll be here for at least another hour. At least another hour. We're gonna take a quick little break. When we come back, we're gonna talk some more. We're gonna be coming back to look at back talking and how to address it. This one here.
Back talking?
Back talking.
It's a big thing, right? So, back talking is like a cycle. It's like you say something to the child, again, not saying, normally tell the child something. The child is like, I'm not going to do it. I think it's fair, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, don't back talk to me. But I want to say this. Don't back talk to me. You back talk to me one more time, I'm going to take away this. I'm going to stop you. And it just blow up into one big thing, right?
Yes.
So let me break it down to something that we need to be aware of is, let's do a quick thing of the brain that ties into everything, and then I'll tell you what the whole back talking thing is about. All right. So we have different parts of the brain. We have the brain stem, which is the whole primitive part of the brain. It's like right at the spine. A little bit above that, you have the midbrain. So the brain stem is like everything automatic. Your breathing, all of that. Your heart rate starts from there. Okay. You have the midbrain, which is the amygdala, right? And the amygdala is very important, and it was necessary as we were evolving because it's a fight or flight thing. So it tells us when there's danger, we need to run or we need to fight. So it's a survival mechanism, right?
Right.
When you go up further, you have the back of the brain. The back of the brain deals with everything relating to your senses, touch, taste, all of that. The front part of the brain is what is called the prefrontal cortex, and that's where all the executive functions occur. Right. That's why you regulate your emotions, you regulate your behavior, you make your decisions, everything logical and practical happens there. Now, when the brain is running smoothly, that's fine. When you get into a heated moment with your children, what happens is that if you are very heated and your child is very heated, the prefrontal cortex stops working properly because the amygdala has taken over, because your fight or flight has been activated. Now, if your fight or flight mode has been activated, your logical thinking is not working properly in that moment. It means that you as a parent not necessarily making the right decision. And most importantly, your children not hearing you. What you're trying to do in that moment to discipline them is going to be useless because they're not able to really sit and listen to what you're saying because what? They're in a fight or flight mode.
Right. So logic is out the window.
Exactly. And that is when most parents try to discipline. Why? I'm afraid if I don't discipline in this heated moment, I'm going to lose control. I need to remind this child that I am the adult. But technically, we were brain not working with us in that point. So that's something to remember, that you cannot be disciplining children in heated moments because you are not necessarily making the right decision and your children aren't hearing you. The brain is just not functioning the way it's supposed to be functioning in that moment. And that is cut across all race, gender, and class. You can't just say, studies are just for white people and whatever. No. It is something that shows up in all the brain scans for anybody cross-culturally. Your brain just don't work when you're logically when you're in a fight or flight mode because you're thinking of survival. And that part of your brain is obviously necessary because we've had it. If we didn't have that part of our brain, all these thousands of years, the human race probably wouldn't exist because we needed to have a way to protect ourselves.
Right.
So when you're in that kind of thing with your children, that's what's happening, and you have to just pull back. So let's get to the back talking now. Now, every child, remember I tell you agency, they create meaning, right? So behind every behavior is a belief or a meaning behind every behavior. Whether it's a good behavior or a bad behavior, a child has a belief behind it. And it's important for us to understand what that is. So when you have back talking, what do most parents feel? We feel angry. We feel threatened. We feel challenged.
Yes.
Challenged. So it could be disrespected, challenged. And we also sometimes feel defeated. And how do we react when we're feeling that? You start to fight. And you start giving thinking, I can't let this picnic get away with this. I will make you do what I want you to do because you're feeling challenged. So this is what you want. This is what you're like, I can't let you get away with this. I'm going to make you do what I want you to do right now because of the feeling of being challenged. How does a child respond to that? They intensify their behavior, they become defiant, they could become, you know, they feel like I need to feel that I have won. So I need to escalate it. Or they become very passive and compliant and say, I'm going to, or covertly passive, I'm going to give her the impression that she has won. But under that is stirring of anger.
Hmm.
Now remember, behind every behavior, there's a belief. And the
Right.
belief that children usually have is, I belong only when I am boss or I am trying to be in control or I'm proving to everybody else that you cannot boss me. You cannot make me. That is the belief coming from back talking. You cannot make me. And I only get form of connection with you when I try to be the boss. A lot of times parents give attention to children when they're misbehaving, but we don't give it as much attention when they're actually behaving. And it's our human nature to want to connect to others. So you might say, but why would a child want to connect to me when I'm shouting?
Mm.
It's a form of connection anyway, because they're wired to want connection and they will take it whether it's good, bad, or in between.
As long as they get it.
As long as they get it, it's a human need, right? So they're saying, you can't boss me, or I only belong when I'm the boss. What we as parents then think of this is, I am in control and you must do what I say. Okay. And for example, I believe that I'm telling you what to do and I'm going to be lecturing you and I'm going to be punishing you when you don't do what I think is best to motivate you. Now, when you're making children feel bad, that is not no motivation for them to be better. But what you need to do is look at the code of what is being communicated. Give me choices, because a lot of time back talking comes from the fact that children think you're being unfair to them. You are imposing something on them instead of giving them limited choices.
Mm.
Or let me help in making this decision making process. Again, their innate need to be autonomous is under threat.
Right.
So they're going to want to protect it. And then you might say, but if I don't threaten them and tell them to shut up and don't back talk, then what else can I do? I'm going to suggest something that Jamaican parents, again, it goes counter to our culture, but it's immediately. So picture yourself this. You're Kevin and I'm your mother.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to do this back talking thing because you want to prove that I can't make you do anything, right? And instead of continuing the cycle of back talking and threats, I said to you, Kevin, I know I can't make you do anything you don't want to do, but I would really appreciate it if you give me some hand and help me clean out the kitchen. I'm overworked and your assistance would reduce my stress completely. What would that do to you immediately?
Well, the way how I am, I know it would put me in a position to want to help.
Exactly.
I'm gonna, especially as a male, I'm gonna want to come to the rescue.
Mm-hmm. So it immediately disarms you, right?
It definitely does.
I know I can't tell you to do anything you don't want to do, but but I'm in this jam right now and I really need your help. So what I'm doing is acknowledging that I can't make you do something, and then I'm redirecting to a positive power by asking for help. So what I'm doing is redirecting your needs for power in a positive way. Another thing that I can do is with the back talking is give you limited choices. So I can say, you do this or you do that. Which one do you choose?
Mm-hmm.
All right. The other way that parents can get out of it is don't fight and don't give in. What you do is withdraw from the conflict and calm down. Because remember what I talk about the brain. When both prefrontal cortex is not working, nothing logical or good feeling to any of us is going to happen, because the logical part of our brain has shut down and the amygdala has taken over.
Right.
So you calm down, but it's hard for us as adults because we think that in pulling back and calming down, we're giving up control, which is not the case. When you calm down, then you say, what occurred with us is just not healthy. It's not appropriate. I'm not comfortable with it. We need to come up with a solution to this particular issue so this does not reoccur again. Again, you're teaching your child to be problem solvers, and then you're helping them to become accountable, right?
Right.
And what you're doing is developing mutual respect for your child. And sometimes the back talking comes from relating to things with chores. So what needs to happen is that you need to develop routines. Routines come about by having weekly meetings to say, these are the things that need to be done in the upcoming week, and we need people to be assigned to it. This is your routine for the week. This is your logical consequence if you don't follow through. You do that, back talking is reduced immediately, right? And you can also help your child to set reasonable limits. Back talking also comes from maybe they're being on the electronics for too long. Then you have a meeting with them and say, it is only appropriate for you to be on the electronics for 2 hours a day, instead of imposing when they're supposed to be on the electronics. Because sometimes children have their favorite TV program or whatever they need to watch, and it comes on at a certain time.
But then you get the whys and the whys and the why.
Well, you can explain to them why it's important for them to not be on the electronics. What you can then do, there are lots of articles that have been written in layman's terms that have talked about the challenges with electronics and children, and you can have a big discussion about it. When you are on the electronics for a long time, the dopamine, that is a pleasure thing, hormone, is in overdrive, right? And the dopamine also influences your mood. So when too much of that is flooded in your system, you tend to your emotions tend to fluctuate a lot, and that's why they tend to have like that kind of outburst, like a junkie. Actually being activated when you're playing the games as well. So you can find these simple articles and you can have big discussions with your children about, yes, it is okay to be on the electronics, but too much of it is not healthy. And this is what is going to be happening to your brain. And if you do it in a way that you're not lecturing them, but you're really just having a dialogue, and you say, I am concerned. I don't want you to be having attention issues or having any kind of withdrawal. So we really don't want you to be too much into the electronics. What do you think is a reasonable amount? Limited choices. Again, you're not going to give like the big, because they might say, 10 hours. No, that's not reasonable.
Right.
I mean, what do you think? You have 2 hours. Do you want to take that 2 hours in one slot? Or do you want to break that 2 hours into like 15-minute slots? Limited choices. You have 2 hours. You want it full or you want it broken down. And more than likely you allow them to choose. Now, with electronics, because it's so addictive, the first week they will probably just fall apart and they will blow up with you and scream, because it's literally like they're coming off an addiction.
Right.
Your emotions are going to be flared up, just giving you the warning the first time it happens. And that is where you would definitely see that they were addicted to it. But over time, when you start regulating, and a lot of times why parents have blow up is because they don't hold up their end of the bargain. They allow their children to play the 2 hours for a couple of days, and then they all of a sudden let everything become lax again, and they gone back to 5-6 hours a day. You don't even impose your own limits that you've agreed on with your children because it's more convenient for them to be on it. So you can hurry up and do little house cleaning, you can hurry up and do this and that and that. So it's a good way
Yeah, that thing right there that you just mentioned, the convenience.
and then what you do though is that you're confusing your children, even teenagers. 1 minute you want to impose the 2 hours, and then the next minute you allow them to do 5 hours. And then when the next minute you want them to do the 2 hours, they're like, but how could I have done 5 hours before and she never said nothing?
Right.
So it's confusing, and what end up happening, children blow up. So even for us as parents, we are not even disciplined with the own consequences that we've come up with our own children.
Mm.
And that confuses them. And then they're like, but I could play 5 hours yesterday. You didn't say anything. I know you're telling me I have to go back to 2 hours. I think it's unfair. Why? Why? You understand?
Right,
So
right, right.
even in imposing the same limits, we need to follow through on our end of the bargain. If you say, if you agree that it's 2 hours, you as mommy and daddy need to maintain that it's 2 hours too. You can't say 2 hours today and give them 5 hours tomorrow.
So, let me ask a question. And this may be going into a different realm. When when both parents, I should
Mm-hmm.
say, are not in the same house, in the same home,
Mm.
that, and then as parents, they can't seem to agree on certain things, or the rules are different in mommy's house from they are in daddy's house.
Mm-hmm.
How does
Co-parent. Mm-hmm.
that affect the whole dynamic of the positive parenting? Because this now would be a prime example of a particular thing being allowed one time and not being allowed another time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
is it I, I don't want to blur the lines too much or cross the ideas too much,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I understand that co-parenting is a challenge, and it requires a lot of growing up as adults in the sense that we have to find a way to put our own emotions on the back burner and um, say, you and I aren't together. You really don't like this person who you unfortunately had a child with, if you're thinking like that. But I have
right,
to put my emotions on the back burner, and we have to sit and talk, and we have to come to some understanding that there has to be some consistency in disciplining our children. Again, unfortunately, one parent might not agree,
right,
but an ongoing conversation you need to have. And you need to say, if the child is doing this with you and then doing Y with me, it becomes very confusing. It's not effective. And if a way of being, and what is going to happen is that I am going to get a pushback, or you might get a pushback, and we're not supporting the child in the way they need to be supported in providing consistency. What needs to be done there is a continuous dialogue. So sometimes you're going to have to be the big person, if you want to put it that way,
mm-hmm.
and your ex-partner is being unreasonable and all of that, but not be difficult with them. And you might think that you're just twisting too much to their needs, but what you're doing is putting the child's need as your most important objective. And it means that you might need to be working with your ex in a little bit of a way that you're not necessarily wanting to be. Now, if they're still being unreasonable, there's nothing you can do about what is happening in their home.
Right,
But you need to explain to your child that when you're with me, these are the rules for this house. So you might not be able to repair the relationship with your ex at all because they're just not emotionally mature to move past certain things.
right,
You
right.
can't do anything you don't have control over. So you can try your best to mend the relationship so you can become one with the parenting. There's a possibility it may not work. You can't do anything about that. But what you can do is maintain a certain level of consistency in your own home and letting your child know. And you might say, but the child may prefer to go to the other parent.
Mm-hmm.
Children like freedom, but they also love structure. And you're like, what? But why do they resist it so much? They like structure. You know why, parents? Because it tells them that you care. You care enough to put this structure in, even though they find it an inconvenience and it's annoying sometimes.
Right.
Deep down inside, it's communicating to them that my mother really cares. My father give me all this freedom, yes, and I like the freedom, but I like the structure and the predictability that happens when I'm with mommy. So you just continue to do what is that you can do consistently in your house.
Right.
And provide that structure for them. But you cannot get beat up on the fact that the father is not doing, or the ex-parent is not, ex-partner is not doing this particular thing, because you really don't have any control over it. You can work on the relationship with them. It might take a couple months, it might take a couple years, and you are the one to say, hey, let's talk, because certain things are coming up, and it's more difficult when it's only happening in one household. How can we work together to have some consistency across the board? And sometimes when we approach our exes in that way, first they're going to be defensive, but over time, if you're always that respectful to them, most people will also soften up a bit.
Okay. Dr. T, I need to pause you for a moment once again. I'm going to take another quick little break. Give some people some time to absorb that which we just covered with the back talking and the introduction to positive disciplining while co-parenting. And I say the introduction because clearly it goes a whole lot deeper. So we're going to take another quick little break, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk some more. I encourage you guys to connect with Dr. Taniesha Burke any which way you can. First of all, just check out her website. And her website has her name, Dr. Taniesha Burke. So a little bit later, we'll go back into contact information for Dr. T. But right now, we're going to address some of the things that we saw that are posted in the pot. Now, one of the comments in the pot was that as Caribbean parents, it's not always easy to explain reasons why we need them to behave in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
And a positive way being how we see the positive way as adults.
Yeah, and I think that what is stemming from that is we as Caribbean people, because remember I'm Jamaican, so
right.
We as Caribbean people, we say children don't listen, and it's because we're saying that you're not obedient.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason they're not listening to us, or you notice what were her exact words? We as Caribbean people, can you find the chat again? We as Caribbean people,
as a Caribbean parent, it is not always easy to explain reasons why we need them to behave in a positive way.
And what you're doing is telling your child. Let me explain. As parents, we are notorious for telling our children, telling, lecturing, telling you how to be, where to be, why it's important, why, how. And we tell.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, put yourself in a situation, if you're at work, people telling you what happens. You tune out.
Right.
So a lot of the things that we are complaining about is like a natural human thing to experience. The child will tune you out, and then you complain that your child is not listening. But could it be that you aren't modeling what listening is all about in the first place? Do you listen? So when you have an issue with your child, what do? You lecture, you explain. But when your child is telling you something, do you listen or do you complain, explain? Do you get defensive or do you lecture? Or do you try to talk to your child, try to talk your child out of a particular thing? A lot
I
of times,
I'm guilty
parents
of
will
trying to
step
talk
back.
them out of a particular thing.
Yes. Or do you try to fix your child's feelings or solve something for them? How about listening to them? There, there's time. Our children have such deep perspective on the world
Mm-hmm.
that we would be so amazed if we just listen, but we spend most of our time lecturing. So you want this child to be respectful, okay? And you're trying to explain to your child why it is important to be respectful. And you're going into this whole lecture.
Mm.
You haven't taken a step back and validate your child's feeling. It seems like you're feeling attacked. It feels like you're feeling threatened. What's really going on? It looks to me that you speaking to me in this disrespectful way, it seems as if there's a possibility I might have been speaking to you disrespectfully. Because a lot of times what show up in front of our faces is the very same thing we've been modeling to our children, and they have simply copied us. So have you spoken to them disrespectfully? If it's yes, so why are you surprised they're speaking to you disrespectfully? They're simply modeling what you're doing. So
Mm.
instead of lecturing, you validate your child's feelings. Whoa, seems like you're very upset and maybe I've been disrespectful to you. I'm noticing that you're responding like this. What's going on? And they might start to share. Now, if this is new to the child will be guarded because they're used to you threatening and wanting to hit them and take away their withdrawals or their
Their
privileges. So
privileges.
they're kind of going to be like suspicious.
Right.
If you do it over a couple of times, they would realize that maybe mommy or daddy really have an interest. So you validate their feelings. It seems like you're angry, and it looks like if you're doing like the back talking, it looks like I have spoken to you disrespectfully, and so you're responding to me in a disrespectful way. What's going on? Yada yada yada. They might tell me more. How do you really feel about this? What were you trying to achieve when you were back talking? And you listen. Now, how do you think we can solve this issue so you don't feel so disrespected anymore? But I know that process is difficult for parents because we're like, but I am the adult. But
Right.
do you see that validating your child's experience and asking them why they respond in a particular way will get them to open up what's really going on, why they think certain things are unfair. You get a glimpse into how their mind thinks, because remember, agency, we create meaning of every single thing. And then you get to an agreement, both of you, that would help to be more respectful. In that way, you're not telling your child that this particular behavior is important. You're having a dialogue, and through the process, your child ends up learning that being respectful is important because you were respectful to them in the first place.
Right.
So a lot of times we tell and we use the fancy word of explain. But telling is not going to necessarily motivate a child to change. It's having a dialogue, because the thing is, when children suspect that they're being heard and they're not being judged and they're not being lectured to,
Mm-hmm.
they will listen to you, and they'll also speak more to you and tell you what's going on. But I understand the struggle. As adults, we are sometimes going to be triggered by what our children say to us, because it's a reflection. Like, you are very disrespectful to me, mommy, because when you speak to me, this is your tone and, whatever, whatever. That's a reflection. And a lot of us cannot handle that, because even in adult relationships, when our partners are telling us that you're being rude, no, me not be rude and blah, 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 you don't want to face it. So part of it too is trying to protect your ego. So I understand it can be difficult, and your ego will fight to want to remain in control, want to be seen as a big person, the person in charge. So that is really an internal conflict that parents go through, and I completely understand and empathize. But with time, it will get better, because you'll see your relationship improving as well. And for me, I often tell parents, what kind of relationship do you want to have with your children when you're 75 years old?
Do you want them to keep you in the home or in the house, or do you want them to put you in a home? Basically, is what it boils down to.
Exactly. Now, the relationship that you're currently having with your child, is it going to give you what you want when you're 75? And if the answer is no, then you need to change the present to achieve what you want at 75. And the other thing with, people keep saying that children bad these days and everything. I'm sure my mother's generation parents also said the same thing. But the thing is, we're doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. You cannot beat down on your children and don't expect one of the 3 R's to pop up.
Rebel, revenge, or retreat.
Exactly. It's going to show up. And you know what is happening now? Most children are rebelling. Most are rebelling, or who not rebelling in them room, cutting themselves, or self-loathing, or loathing, or using weed or something to suppress their emotions.
Right.
So,
well, drugs on a whole.
Yes. So you have to look at, what I am doing is not working. I have to try something else. And I know, especially for Caribbean people, this whole respecting children fully, it's it's conflicting to us, because we weren't raised like that.
No.
We were raised to be seen and not heard. You have your own point of view, and you were told to shut up, don't make me lick you or give you something for cry for, or whatever. So we, in order to make that shift, for many of us, it's difficult. And I know it is.
Because that was what we grew up with. That was how we were taught.
Yeah, and I had to give myself time to change. But if you're in this process and you want to change, you know what is so beautiful? What you'll be teaching your children, if you go to your children and say, let's have a family meeting. I know that what we've been having, how we've been interacting as a family has just been really unhealthy. And I don't like how it's affecting our relationship. I value you as my child, and I want our relationship to be way better. And I want you to accept the values that I think are important for you. So I'm going to make a change on my part and find a way to parent you in a way that's more compatible with you achieving certain goals or accepting certain goals that I value. And I apologize for all the harsh things that I've said to you. I apologize for all the harsh things that I've done to you. And I'm going to make an effort from now on to parent you in a way that's more respectful for you. Can you imagine what that would do to your children?
Well, considering that a lot of parents have difficulty apologizing to their children, or adults on a whole have difficulty apologizing to children. That can be pretty powerful.
And what would that make you when you apologize? There's a reciprocal response. When you apologize, you are saying to your child, I honor you as a human being. And you know what comes with that? A child is going to be way more receptive to you.
Mm.
They're going to want to be more compliant with you because you've actually acknowledged, yeah, I've messed up and I'm sorry. I'm sorry for making you feel bad. And I'm going to try to do better next time. It's like, oh my gosh. They're not even, maybe they're not thinking about this intellectually, but she really respects me. Yeah, she wants me to do this thing. I'm willing to do it. It's okay to apologize to your children. Our parents never apologized to us, and think about how that made us feel. They might have said some nasty things, or they might have hit us so hard that they have left scars on our body, and they've never said, I'm sorry. Think about if you had your parents saying, I'm sorry to you.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the anger or the resentment that you have held on to. And some people say, I don't hold on to anger or resentment, but you might then become aloof, meaning you really don't care about your parents after a while.
Right.
If you had gotten that kind of apology from your parent, what would it have done to your whole healing process? So sometimes we have to put ourselves in our children's shoes and also heal our childhood stuff. But yeah, but it's
That in itself is a process, though.
yes. So what the whole thing of explaining to our children. Sometimes we talk too much. If we ask them questions, they will come up with their own solutions. So there's an example of the doctor who came up with positive discipline. She was giving an example of like her teenage daughter wanting to go out to drink, and she was like so tempted to lecture and to say, if you do drink and whatever, you're going to be punished. I'm going to take away your privileges. I'm going to ground you. But she took a step back, and you see those curiosity questions that I've been talking about this week and last week.
Yeah.
Like, why do you think it's important for you to drink? And she's like, well, everybody's doing it, and I want to do it too. What do your friends think about you right now? Oh, they think I'm a nice, responsible person, and they really like me. How would they think about you if all of a sudden you start drinking? And she was taken aback, and then she's like, oh, maybe they would become disappointed that I'm now doing that because they don't expect that kind of behavior from me. And then she's like, how would you feel about yourself then if you went ahead and drink? And her daughter paused and thought about it. I don't think I would feel good about it. I don't think I would feel good about myself. And she said, is that the kind of experience you want to have? And her daughter said, no, I think maybe this drinking thing is not a good idea for me. Now, what is more effective? She explaining why drinking is not good, or having her daughter come to the conclusion on her own that drinking is not good?
Yeah.
Do you see it? This is different in explaining why a behavior needs to be done,
Right.
and having a dialogue to the point where the child comes to that conclusion themselves. Which one is more powerful?
Right,
Which one is
right.
more long term? You explaining why drinking is not good, or a child realizing this is not part of my value system, so it's not something I'm going to do?
A comment that was posted a while back in the pot. We need to teach by example, and we do so, whether it is
We
good
teach everything
or not.
Yeah. So we are disrespectful. We're teaching our children to be disrespectful when we are not when we're not respectful to them. We're teaching our children not to listen when we don't listen to them. All we do is lecture, judge, and complain. Or explain.
There was something I heard recently. A parent telling a child, or saying that they tell their children, if someone disrespects you, you do not show them respect.
Is that someone everybody except the parent?
I didn't even ask that question. The question that came to my mind is, okay, so who determines what that disrespect is? So if that child is given some instructions and they don't feel that they're justified in receiving those instructions, then that becomes disrespect to them, even if it is something for their benefit to the child.
Because who imposed that disrespect? The adult? So sometimes we want, okay, I think this is coming down to the whole obedience and cooperative issue. And it's something that we parents need to be very, very careful about. When we say children don't listen, what we're really saying is that children aren't obedient. And what that is really saying is that children aren't doing exactly what we want them to do. And what happens when you insist on a child becoming obedient is that a child becomes an approval junkie. Like, this doesn't sit well with me, creating meaning, but I'm going to do it anyway to get your approval. Right? Now, you might see that fine in your relationship because you get the child to do what you want without much fuss, but you have to think beyond your relationship. If you have an approval junkie child because they've been conditioned to be obedient, not cooperative. Cooperative is, I will do this thing because, I agree with it.
Right.
If I don't agree with it, I'm not doing it. Obedience is, I am doing this thing from a place of fear, and I'm doing it even though I am uncomfortable with it. It might work for you in your home, but parents, I want you to think beyond your home. What if there's a predator in your extended family, or in your friends group, or in your church, or at your child's school, who said, come on, sit on my lap? No. A cooperative child would be like, no, I'm not comfortable with that.
Right.
An obedient child would do what?
Comply.
Go sit on the lap because they want to be an approval junkie and they want to be seen as a good girl or a good boy.
Right.
And what happens to them there? The predator goes and touches them or does certain things to them, and out of fear, they give in. That is what I'm trying to tell parents, that you can want to get your child to be obedient for you, and it's more convenient because you get a lot more things done in the house, but think beyond your home. Not everybody has the best intentions for your children.
Right.
You don't want a child who is always obedient, because when they're obedient like that, they are going to do things to get the approval of a person, even though it goes contra to everything they're feeling in their deep inner being. They know this touch is wrong, but they have to be an obedient child because that's what you taught them. If you taught them to be cooperative and say, no, I think this is not right, predators don't go after those children. They're too outspoken. They will blow the cover.
Too much work.
No, it's not just too much work. They will blow the cover. Because this child will immediately go to the mom and say, hey, Uncle Jack tried to touch me here and I wasn't comfortable with it. The obedient child will be like, I don't like how Uncle Jack is touching me, but I have to be a good girl. And they probably won't even say anything to you. Because if you've responded in a way of lecturing and judging them, maybe this little girl might think, Mommy is going to judge me. She's going to lecture me about me allowing Uncle Jack to touch me. So it might as well I don't say anything. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So sometimes we do things that are convenient for us, but we have to look at the long-term effect of it beyond us. Yeah. So don't try to have your child be a approval junkie and become obedient. Have them be cooperative. And that's the big difference, because when something don't sit right with them, they're going to say, it don't sit right with me. But if you beat out of your children that they're not supposed to speak up for themselves, they're not supposed to be speaking up for yourself can become from a child's point, from a parent's point of view, when a child speaking up for themselves can become a state of disrespect.
Right.
And you don't want, and you're teaching your child, when you speak up for yourself, you're being disrespectful. No, when you're speaking up for yourself, you as a parent, when a child is speaking up for themselves, you as a parent have to take a step back and say, wait, I have been disrespectful to you in some way. Let's talk about this. What's really going on? And the child may say, I think you're being unfair because the way you spoke to me, it wasn't kind, and so on. But if you insist on the child not sharing their views, you're literally teaching children to hide their voice. And it may work for you in the home because you have less conflict. But I tell you, parents, when the child steps out of the home, they're going to respond to others in the same way. And not everybody has the best intentions for your children.
Right. Think of that teacher giving that bad grade just because, or even worse, think of that police officer pulling over that child when they're in a position to drive. That child could see the way that the police officer is talking to them as being disrespectful.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the American situation, where I'm just from the outside looking in, when a police officer pulls over particularly a black teenage boy, in these situations, you know that yes, how he's responding is respectful, but you have to say to them, this is a fight or flight situation.
Right.
And what happens in fight or flight situations, similar to the parent-child relationship, is going to escalate if you are insisting on responding from your amygdala, right? It's going to escalate and he has the power to kill you.
Right.
So you, as a child, just pull yourself back and be calm. If you can record whatever you need to record it. I don't think you are. Sometimes we understand the power we have in those situations. When you escalate and you get angry, similar to the parent-child relationship, things blow up and they get nasty. He has the power to justify the fact that he can kill you, he can arrest you. When you remain calm and he's escalating the situation and blowing up on you, you remain calm anyhow. And it would be good if you have some evidence, like recording the voice or video. But you are then in a better position to file a complaint.
But growing up being either obedient or being rebellious. Then
if you're rebellious, you're going to be rebellious, you're going to want to fight in that moment,
right,
to protect yourself. No, if you're teaching your children to think logically, again, when you're doing all these things, accountability, self-control, self-regulation, because when you allow children to really have a voice and critically think and problem solve and all that, you're also training their prefrontal cortex, self-regulation, and all of that. So when they are in that moment with a police officer, they're better able to regulate their emotions. They're better able to regulate their behavior, even when they're under stress, because it's something that you've been training them to do for a long time. But when you tell children and punish them, you're not giving them the opportunity to learn to do those things. Understand? So when they're in front of a police and you have trained them to regulate their emotions so well, police officers, unfortunately, can try to do a lot of things to tick you off because they need the justification to shoot you or to arrest you.
Right.
But if you are so trained to regulate your emotions, you know what is coming, you know what he's doing to you, you know it's unfair, but you know that if you respond in a way that justifies his response, you could be dead or you could be in prison. So you regulate your emotions. Yes, you speak to him respectfully. You record whatever you need to record. And then you can do the complaints. I think what we don't realize as Black people is that, you see, when we're very calm
Mm-hmm.
and in control, they don't really know what to expect.
Right.
And it's hard for them to justify their escalation. But you have to train your children to regulate their behavior from in your home.
Well,
So
you
that's when,
yourself as a parent would have to learn how to, so you can teach your child how to.
and it starts by having these conversations. So instead of throwing punishment on them, when we start off the show talking about accountability and all of that, these are
Yeah.
little gems that you learn from brainstorming, that your children learn from brainstorming with you, by coming up with consequences, that works. You're doing something to the prefrontal cortex that's training them, that then will be applicable to a whole range of scenarios. And I think the big thing is regulating your emotions. Because if you don't know how to regulate your emotions, you're going to blow up really fast. And in certain circumstances, blowing up really fast is dangerous in front of a police officer. And unfortunately for Black children, in front of a teacher, because studies show that Black children are more likely to be suspended or expelled from school for the very same behavior that white children exhibit. But if
Mm-hmm.
your child is very calm and then come to you and say, Mommy, I need your support. I would prefer if you go to the school because this teacher is doing this and that to me.
Right.
Now, if your child is always calm, what the teacher is going to say, oh, your child is disrespectful and that just justifies me giving them detention. Or my child is calm, what is the teacher going to say? So you have to teach your children to regulate their emotions from the home, because in regulating their emotions, when they're in other situations, they can regulate their emotions, which reduce the reason for or the justification for certain kind of behavior from somebody who is antagonizing them, especially somebody in authority. But when they can't regulate their emotions and they think, I need to, you're being unfair, blah, 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 and you're going off and off and off and off, that can get your child killed.
Right.
When they can regulate their emotion, okay, officer, is there anything else? Thank you, officer. Record what they need to record. And if you think they're unfair, then you file a complaint.
Here is a comment in the pot that is really interesting. I believe the loss of autonomy is at the root of men's reluctance to commit to relationships, and not so much the prospect of one woman for the rest of our life thing. Once upon a time, when women were dependent on men but were the pursued, there was a different but more equal power differential than existing in most relationships today, with women no longer dependent on men and still the pursued. This is quite a bit. So women are in the driver's seat of their relationships, and with the talk among women that men are boys, I think subconsciously the way our parents dealt with us comes into play. Women's tone become like that of a mother scolding a child, and men either withdraw, comply, or rebel. So subconsciously,
that's exactly true. So that's all. I get what the person is saying. That
this is deep.
It's so funny that especially fathers raise your daughter to be, or sometimes we raise our daughters to be extremely independent, and then we baby our sons, and then we wonder why when they grow up the boy don't want to take any form of responsibility and the girl is super independent, and then It's going to
Right.
cause a clash in the relationship
Right.
that they have. Now, I'm speaking specifically to single mothers. You need to stop babying your sons. Sometimes, as single mothers, we feel the need to rescue our children. All parents have that need, but it's notorious for single parents. We want to rescue them. We don't want them to experience the consequences of their actions. For example, your son forgot his homework and call you to say, Mom, I forgot my homework. What do most parents or most mothers do? Jump in them car and do what? Carry the homework to them son.
Either
You're
they
not
have to
teaching your
go
son.
home and get it, or they
Yeah, you're not teaching your son responsibility.
right.
You're not teaching your son time management. What you're supposed to do in that sense is like, okay, well, I guess you'd have to explain to the teacher why you didn't bring your homework, or you come back for it and go back to school late, and then you have to explain why you got to school late in the first place. But I know you'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment, he's going to say, but mom, you're unfair. The long-term impact is that he's going to be like, you know what, let me pack my bag from the night before so I don't forget my homework.
Uh,
Long-term impact, become more responsible. But I understand the part where women are mothering men. And let me say something to women. When you become a mother to a man,
mm-hmm.
he's not going to be inspired, and he's definitely not going to be attracted to you if he's a healthy heterosexual man. Because no man wants to have sex with his mother. It's you come across as his
Yeah.
mother.
Yeah.
It's that mother-son relationships that's gonna come up, and he's not going to want to be intimate, provide, and protect. None of that is going to be activated because you're representing his mother. He's not attracted to his mother. But he's not doing this, he's not being responsible, he's not doing that, and that. So we need to step in. Women, we need to stop doing for men what they can do for themselves. Don't have no man up in your house who is not working. Let me make that clear. If you're
Mm.
in a relationship with a man and he's lost his job,
Mm-hmm.
he needs time to find another job. That's fine. But you don't enter a relationship with a man knowing that he's not working and moving him into your house
And he's not working by choice.
by choice. Exactly. Because when you take over the provide and protect role, you can tell me if I'm wrong as a man.
Mm-hmm.
When you, as a woman, take over the provide and protect role, a man is not going to be inspired to provide and protect.
Right.
What is happening is that the energy has shifted, and you have now accepted the masculine energy of providing and protecting, and he has now accepted the
The
feminine
feminine.
energy of
Mm-hmm.
being provided for.
Right.
So this whole babying and taking care of men, listen, you say to him, yeah, you're not working. Yeah, well, when you get your things together, and yeah, let's see if we can take this relationship forward. If a man is really interested in you, he's going to be inspired to do it. If he's not, he's just going to move on to the next woman who's going to take care of him. And you've just saved yourself a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So what women need to realize is that when we stay in our feminine role of being the nurturing one and so on, instead of being the one who wants to provide and protect, a man is naturally going to be programmed to want to provide for us. They might want to do 2, 3, 4 jobs to make sure we're okay because they have this woman that they want to provide for. When you're overly, women, yes, it's important to have your education and everything. I have a PhD, okay? But when a man doesn't see where he's needed in your relationship, he's going to clock out. Because you cannot suppress thousands of years of evolution where men were instinctively wanting to provide and protect. Yes, you have your education. Yes, you have your job, but you have to show that he's still needed. Yes, you can move the furniture, but why move it? Ask him to do it. Yes, you can carry the heavy grocery bags, but why carry them? Ask him to do it for you. Thank him for doing it for you. Yes, you can paint the wall yourself, but ask him, show appreciation that you love that he painted the wall for you. What is that going to do to
Right.
you as a man, Kevin? Not inspire you.
Right.
But we take over the mother role, and listen, mothers, women, when you become their mother, they're not gonna want to do anything for you. They're not going to be inspired because you now have a mother-son relationship, and they're
Mhm.
definitely not going to be sexually attracted to you anymore because you have become their mother, and they're not attracted to their mother.
Dr. T,
Yeah,
you know what this has now led us to.
I am afraid to ask.
This has now led us to asking the question about adults, about the parents. So, not so much, yes, disciplining is a part of it, but
Hmm.
the role of the parent in the
Hmm.
home and what the child sees.
Mm.
So, what's on your calendar for next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday is what, the 19th. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can speak with you one more time for this year, but after that, the rest of the
It's
year is
on.
my family time. The rest of the year
It's
is my family time. I'm
it's
very protective
on.
of my family time, so I can do it one more time next week if parents have specific behavioral issues that they want addressed,
Hmm.
they can pose it to you before the show, and then we can go in, go one after the other and talk about
Right.
the alternative to hitting, threatening,
Yeah, we still
with
have to. Yeah, we still
things
have
like
to look at that some more. You touched on that earlier. But real quick, we got like 2 minutes before we got to go to here. Give your contact information real quick for me, Dr. T.
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook, which my Facebook page is Taniesha Burke, PhD. And Tanisha, I know Jamaicans spell it all kind of different way. Mine is Taniesha Burke, PhD. You'll find it on Facebook. And on Facebook, you'll see, like, I have over 20 parenting videos giving different tips. You can find my website, tanieshaburke.com, TANIESHABURKE.com, and there you will see other materials as well. I also on my website have a test that you can take to measure your parent-child relationship or even your intimate relationship. And on Instagram it's Dr. Taniesha Burke. So you can find me on all those platforms.
I thank you, thank you, thank
Oh,
you.
before
Yes.
you go to, I do have a parenting journal that was recently released. So if you want to improve your
Mm.
parent-child relationship, you can go to Amazon and you type in my name, Taniesha Burke, and you will see the journal comes up, or you can do parenting journal. But if you do parenting journal, there are several. So you might not see mine easily because it's just released. But if you type in my name, you'll see the journal pop up and you can use it. Get it for 2019 to say, hey, I want to start a new leaf in my parent-child relationship. And I'm going to use this journal to help me.
Here's what I'll try to do. I'll try to put a link to that journal on my site.
Uh-huh. Perfect.
That's what I'll try to do. I'll try to get that done this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So next week we'll have you back looking at the roles of a man and a woman as parents in the home.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I do have a video on Facebook as well. Why mothers can't father their sons.
There it is.
My mother
Dr.
who
T,
fathered me doesn't work. Yeah.
I want to thank you very much. We got
You're
a
welcome.
bail, we got a bounce.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. We'll do it again next week to close out the year. All right.
Yeah.
So I thank you, and I cannot thank you enough. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your participation. Thank you for hanging out with us.